So here we are again on another one of our full-length glass blowing videos. We're going to make a Seagrass perfume bottle. So here we have the colours laid out behind us. So there's colour laid out for 3 of them. I'll just be doing 1, and I'm going to use colours on the left. So first of all, I'm going to start off with a little gather. So I've just got a little gather on a hot blowing iron, and I'm going to put a small bubble in that. So we have a pad of wet paper. Just going to put this on centre. Put a little bubble in. So I've got my thumb over the end. Air expands when it gets hot, so it should just blow out a little bubble at the end of my blowing iron. There we go. Now this is a good time to go make a cup of tea while I wait this to cool down a little bit. And then we're going to gather over it again and put the colour on. So I've got to wait for this gather to get a little bit colder, so it's got a bit of structure to it. So when I stick this back in the furnace to get more glass on, this bit doesn't collapse and doesn't go off centre. So we're down to about, I don't know, 800 degrees now, and that should be fine. So I'm just going to make sure the colour's all right and put my gather on. So in here we have a big pot of glass that about 40 litres of glass, no, 140 litres of glass. No, what is it? Can't remember now, but there's a lot of glass in there. So I've got a gather of hot glass on there, and I'm going to just line myself up and roll the gather into the chips and canes. Now I like them all just going on quite randomly. I'll just put a few more chips on the bottom. Now I've got to heat all that up. So when I roll through the colour over there, I'm rolling from left to right or clockwise. So now when I'm heating this up, I've got to make sure that I go more anti-clockwise than clockwise to keep those lines of colour fairly much vertical. I don't want them to swirl around the piece of glass. Back to the metal table and just iron them in a little bit. Put a point on it. So now all those colours are now nearly smooth. Back to the glory hole. So this design originated from snorkeling in a very shallow inlet, and there'd been a storm, so the water was very murky, and it was also very choppy, so the sunlight was reflecting through the waves, and there was amazing reflections and sort of just sharp bits of colour, bits of light and colour reflecting off all the seagrass that was being swirled around by the waves. It's quite amazing. So I'll just put some more air in. So we can see the bubble just getting a little bit bigger there. And this is what happens. This blowing iron's got a very small hole in it somewhere, so it's hard to thumb it. So I'm going to have to blow this out almost normally. So I'm heating this up again. So when I come out of here, I've got to put the glass on centre and then blow the piece up. Not like explode, like blow it up. Hello. So you can see the piece is now getting bigger. So I've got more solid glass at the bottom and my bubble at the top. So now I've got to put a line around the top of it so I can get it off this blowing iron. So as you know, we do these videos in real time. So it's actually how long it takes to make this bit of glass. So I've got the whole piece hot again. Pair of jacks, put a line around the top. So this is where this piece will come off the blowing iron. Blow it out a bit more. So now what I want to do is I want to make the main piece longer. So I'm going to put back in the glory hole and then hang it down, which will stretch the glass downwards. So when I put it in the glory hole, I don't need to put the whole piece in, because where I've cut it in at the top, I don't want that to get too hot anymore. So I'm heating up from the shoulder downwards. So when I come out of here, I'm going to swing the piece so it will get longer. So you can see now we have a longer piece of glass. Back to the chair. Make sure it's roughly on centre. Because I put the colours on asymmetrically, it always wants to pull off centre. And I'm just going to put a little chalk line around the bottom, so it's going to be easier for me to get the punty on centre. So now what I'm going to use is my knocking off block. So I've got a file here in my hand, and I'm just going to file around where I cut it in. And I'm just going to tap it off in there and it will come off. Flip that round, and you can see now I can see my chalk line on the bottom of the piece. So it's much easier once I make the punty. I'm going to make a little button punty. You only need a small amount of glass to pick this piece up. So I've got a little button punty here. I'm just going to tap it on the floor, stick that in the middle of my circle that I made, and I can pick the bit of glass up. So now I've got it the other way around. So I've got the hole, the top of the piece in the glory hole. So it's all about heat management. So whenever you blow a piece of glass, none of the glass gets below 650, 700 degrees. So when you finish a bit of glass, it has to go away in a kiln to cool down slowly, and that kiln's at 500 degrees, and it stops moving at around about 600, 650. So when I'm doing this now, I'm concentrating on the hole at the end of the piece, and at the moment I can see a black line around it, and that's the refraction is hitting the sharp bit. As that gets hot, that smooths off, and you end up with just not being able to see that black edge. So that's one of the things I'm looking for. I've also got a few reduction colours, so I'm just going to turn the air down a little bit to give them a little bit of shine. And I can see now that the top of it's getting hot. So I now go back to the chair, have a look at it, stick my jacks in the end, and start opening up the top of it. I'm not really too worried about the top edge being on centre, because I quite like it to be a little bit wavy. But I've given myself an aim now. So when I heat it up again now, I'm going to flash the whole thing over. If the punty gets too cold, it will just drop off. So if you're worried, we're nearly there. Piece is nearly finished. So now I've got to cut in the top, and I've got to put the right angle on it. So when I make the stopper will be able to grind it in properly. So I'm going to cut in. I'm pulling upwards a little bit, sticking my jacks in to give an angle on there, on the neck. And there's our perfume bottle done. So there's a Seagrass perfume bottle. This one has to go away in the kiln to cool down slowly, and we'll make a stopper for it, which will be ground in the top. Thank you very much for watching.